Hi loves, it's Cara Jean and I am back for another one. So today I thought I would do an interesting juxtaposition of talking about existential philosophy while doing my eyes with the Blue Blood palette. Kind of interesting, the dichotomy of blue bloods, royals, and existential thinkers. So I am going to show this to those of you who have been living under a rock and haven't seen it. So I've only used this palette one time, which is why I figured I would break it out. So in my last video, I was talking about just how I was feeling in my life, you know, kind of hopeless, directionless. And then I started rereading some work by Albert Camus, who was a prominent existentialist in the 20th century, post-World War II era. I'm going into I'm Cold right now for my transition shade. Speaking of being cold, so this philosophy is very interesting because there wasn't really a school of thinkers that all came together and had the same ideas. There were a bunch of different existentialists who had differing takes on the same idea. So what is existentialism? Basically, it is the idea of constructing meaning in a life that has no intrinsic meaning. So it's, again, like this theory and the Blue Blood palette, a paradox, because it doesn't quite become an ideology since there are so many differing viewpoints, and we never quite get an answer because we don't know what lays beyond. So Albert Camus, who I mentioned earlier, he was someone who is known for an offshoot of existentialism called absurdism. So it's the belief that a search for meaning is inherently in conflict with life having no meaning, if that makes any sense. I'm going into Blue Monday for my crease shade. So basically, if you go back to Plato and Aristotle, some of the first philosophers that you learn about in college usually, they talk about the idea that every human is born with a God-given essence, and that is sort of the purpose for why you're here, and that, you know, you have a destiny to fulfill. However, the existentialist thinkers, Camus and also Friedrich Nietzsche, thought that we were not intrinsically born with this purpose, and rather we had to construct meaning for ourselves in whatever form that may take by exploring art and culture. So it's kind of an interesting theory to discuss. And I actually am so fascinated with it, even though I learned about this during my undergrad studies. It's become a little bit more fascinating to me recently just because of the feelings I've been having about life lately and sort of, why are we here? What is my purpose? What are we doing? And it's just kind of interesting, the theories that they present, especially Nietzsche, who had sort of an idea of culture as a replacement for religion. So back in the day, of course, everybody used religion to kind of explain the complexities of life and why things happened the way that they did. However, Nietzsche claims that religion is used as a crutch to kind of cover or mask a weakness of character, because people who are devoutly religious refuse to kind of accept the bad things in life. They always want to explain it away by, oh, well, you know, they're suffering so that we can have joy. But if you believe in this idea of existentialism and absurdism, you know, these things are just human constructs. The same way that we have to construct something that is meaningful to us in order to make sense of why we're here. Are you confused yet? That's sort of the interesting thing discussing these topics, because there's such a wide array of opinions and there is really no correct answer. But I found that idea of religion as a crutch very interesting. And I don't want to offend anyone who is uber religious who might be watching this video, but it is just an alternative point of thought. So I'm going in the outer corner with Undertaker, which is almost this navy black mix. Speaking of the darkness of life, let's put the darkness of life on my outer corner. So the other thing that is interesting to note about this topic is the idea of rebellion versus surrender. So in Camus' work, he had an essay entitled The Rebel, and in that essay he talked about how even though we are aware that the world really has no intrinsic meaning, we still have to rebel against that and create something that is going to sustain us and give us some sort of joy while we're here. So it's almost like an acceptance of the fact that we weren't given a meaning for life at the start of our lives, but that we have to enjoy the small pleasures while we're here. And then whatever happens, happens. Which is kind of an interesting take, I think. This idea of both acceptance and rebellion, which are two things that normally wouldn't go together at all. You would think you either accept or rebel, but he definitely supported a mix of the two. And when I say surrender, I'm talking in terms of those people that lean on what he would deem as illusions, like religion, things that we're not really sure are actually true or not, in order to, you know, make life seem less scary or, you know, less daunting when we think about death. And Camus also talked about the idea of suicide a lot, and saying, you know, is suicide the only way out of this world if we truly believe that everything is kind of for naught? And I know that sounds very dark, but just a very interesting take on things, I think. I'm just kind of trying to buff this blue out. I look like Mimi from the Drew Carey show. Loving that. Having a Mimi 80s moment. And I'm getting blue all in the corner of my eyes. But I think that looks pretty cool. I've always wanted to attempt a cut crease, but I've tried them in the past, and it's, you know, not my greatest achievement, I have to say. So perhaps that will be a video in the future of me attempting to do a cut crease and all of you giggling with glee that it came out so horribly. So anyway, I don't know. What do you guys think of these ideas that I'm proposing. Is this too cerebral for you? Do you just want me to do my makeup and shut the hell up? Because I could totally do that, but I find it far too interesting for me to do so. So I'm just adding a little bit of powder on the sides because I feel like the blue is getting to a crazy place right now, and I need to cut it back a little bit. Chop the side of that bad boy. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the lid with, I can't even open this thing. Who else has had issues opening this? It's okay, I still love it. I'm going to go in on the lid with, I think, Deceased. This one right here, it's a shimmer, sort of a true blue. We'll see how that goes. If it's too dark, we'll switch, but yeah, it's kind of blending in with all of the other colors. Not loving that. So you know what? Let me go in with Ice Tray, which is the one right next to it, and that's a little bit lighter. So hopefully we can cover that darkness up. Oh, there we go. Now our shimmer's popping. That's more what I was looking for. And like I've said before, I always go a little above. And I'm getting fallout all over the place, so that's fantastic. Definitely should have powdered under my eye. You know what? It might be a little late at this point, but I'm doing it now. So that way we don't get any more. And I'm looking for the cap to my powder because I'm not sure where it is. Oh, right in front of my face. Fabulous. Okay. I'm using my Hourglass Mineral Veil because we all know I love that. Although I did use the Mercier powder on my face today. It's feeling a little oily. Alright, so now I've got a protective barrier. That's exciting. So, back to philosophy. Another interesting topic that nature raised was the idea of envy. Envy is an emotion that a lot of people don't like to admit to. They don't like to say that that exists or admit that they are guilty of feeling it, which is kind of interesting to me. I mean, no one can really say they've never been envious of somebody else, but we usually see it as a negative trait, especially in Christianity and a lot of organized religions. It's a sin to be envious, right? Because that makes you, you know, a negative force against your fellow man. However, what Nietzsche said was that envy should be an accepted emotion because it can clue us into what we want in our lives and what we are capable of. And I thought that was a really interesting concept because normally what we do is we just look at other people's lives and we get upset that we don't have as much as them, or we wish we had their job or their, you know, house or what have you. But if you look at it from the viewpoint of that's who I want to be, and make the person you are envious of someone that you look up to rather than someone that you dislike, it can be a really positive trait. And something like that can be motivating and inspiring as opposed to being, you know, something that brings you down. So that is a very interesting topic to me. Now I'm just going over this with a makeup wipe because I went way too close to my brow on this side. See, when I'm doing my makeup myself and I'm not on a camera being watched by however many people, it's a lot easier because I can sort of tweak and finesse what I'm doing. However, with this, it's really difficult because if you make a mistake, everybody sees it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off camera for a minute. I'm going to fix this eye and I'm going to come right back to you. Hold tight. Alright, I'm back. I'm pretty sure my eyeshadow is as even as it's going to get at this point. So I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to wipe the powder off from underneath my eyeball quickly. And then I should probably use a smaller brush for this, but don't know where one is right now. So that minimized the fallout, which makes me a happy lady. And the next thing I'm going to do is go underneath my lash line. So I thought what might be kind of interesting is a combination of Deceased, that shimmer I tried at first, that was a little too dark, combined with this Ocean Ice glitter. I think that will be kind of cool. So we'll go in with Deceased first. I know this might feel like the most random of topics to be discussing when applying makeup, but hey, why not? We all have questions about life, don't we? Don't me? Don't me? Don't me? Don't you? Don't we all? So what should we believe? It's very interesting, I think, to question things, and perhaps this is me being a product of being raised a good little Catholic girl and questioning what I have been taught. So, I mean, I'm not anti-religion, organized religion, for anyone else. For myself, not so much. It's not really my jam. I don't feel like God, if he exists, is sitting up there going, you didn't come to my man-made church, so therefore you're doomed to hell. I really don't believe that. I honestly question what I believe, to be honest. I mean, I think there is a creator for sure. Is it God? Is it the God of, you know, my upbringing? Who really knows? But I do tend to find some comfort in these somewhat doom and gloom philosophies, because when you really think about it, there's so many awful things that happen in life. It's kind of like, if this were predestined, I mean, why are all these awful things happening in the world? You know? And I mean, religion has so many I can't talk today, contradictions, that it is really difficult to kind of take that as gospel, no pun intended. I don't know. And then we get into the fun idea of nihilism. So if you don't know what nihilism is, that means the acceptance that life is completely meaningless and anything that we do to try to give life meaning is false. That's a downer, right? So, I mean, Camus' absurdism and Nietzsche's ideas about culture versus religion are somewhat more hopeful, because they're still saying life is meaningless, but that we can create our own moral code based on things that are important to us, right? Like our art, like our family, our friends, you know, and at least enjoy the time that we're here. It's like a perpetual period of the 1920s. Live it up before you go, right? What do we think of that idea? I'm all for that. Not that I have the funds for that, but it's a nice idea to think about. If I'm getting far too cerebral for you, feel free to just get a snack, take a break. It's fine. I won't be offended. Only slightly. Alright, so now I'm going to go in. I'm going to go in with my liner at the top. I actually think that lower lash line looks pretty good with the combo of Deceased and Ocean Ice. So while we're on the subject of Jeffree Star and my evil pulling of my eye, what do we think of the Bloodlust video that was released today? I don't know if this video will go up on the same day that it was released, but yes, today, Tuesday, it was released. I, for one, I'm absolutely psyched. I love pinks and purples, and that is the perfect palette with a bunch of different tones that I actually don't own, because we've all seen a bunch of similar pinks and purples, but I feel like the undertones of these are quite unique, and I really like the packaging. Some people think that the, you know, royal blue, sort of Crown Royal-esque packaging is tacky, but I love me a good tacky moment, so I'm all for it. What should we do for liner underneath? You know what? I'm going to be bold and go purple, because there's nothing like purple and blue together. Oh, that Kara, she's so boring. She just can't leave her purple out of it, can she? What can I say? We all have our favorite things. Alright. That looks good, to me at least. But this is my channel, damn it, so if it looks good to me, it's okay. If it doesn't look good to you, leave me a hate comment. Totally fine. I can take it. I'm a big girl. Alright, so that I don't bore you, I'm going to pop off and pop on some lashes, and then we'll do lips and we'll be finished. So I will see you in a moment. Alright, my loves, I have returned. I've got my lashes, I've got my lower lashes, I've even got my lips. And I went in on the inner corner with this top shade Cullinan here, which I think gives a nice reflect along with this crazy blue look. As for lips, I went in with my favorite Anastasia liquid lip in Poet, which is this nice sort of mauve-y reddish brown shade. So what do we think of the finished look? We like? Is it too crazy? Is it as crazy as the existential philosophies we discussed today? So let me know if you like the content in this video. I enjoy doing these makeup and life talks. I know this was a short one today, but I had been thinking a lot about this topic, so I figured that I would throw a look together, go old school with Blue Blood, and talk to you about some crazy theories about life. So, if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoy me, please like this video, share this video, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you on the next adventure. Bye.